What is going on, everyone? My name is James. I'm back giving you guys another stock to look at, or a couple of stocks actually to look at for the market coming up here the week of the 29th of January to, I believe, the 2nd of February. So one of the first ones I'm looking at here is PG, or Procter and Gamble. Just looking at the stock here, it looks like it tried to form on the weekly a nice little head and shoulders pattern. So you got the shoulder, slightly higher head, shoulder right here, neckline, but they never brought it down close enough to the neckline. Bulls really stepped in. I think that last week they did have earnings, so that helped. Yep, looks like they had earnings on, was it Monday? I think it was Monday night. So they did have a nice, looks like obviously a nice earnings report. Now we are pushing up through. We got a slight pullback into the earnings gap, followed by a very big bounce by the buyers and some continuation here on Friday. I'm looking for that continuation to keep going. First level breakout is that 156.40, and then on the larger time frame, we can see that I believe it's 157.67. So generally, once we start pushing into this range, I think we'll see the all-time high fairly quick, especially with the volume that we've got right now. It's a massive volume on the weekly. Again, due to earnings mostly, but nonetheless, good volume. You can see that our indicators are all splitting up right now. This is in heavy bullish territory. This is definitely one that I'll be personally watching this week. As far as options to play on this, I would say if you're looking at this one next week, I would go at least 2 to 3 weeks out just to protect yourself from the volatility. If you're going to, to protect yourself from theta, if you're going to scalp it, I would say that the February 16th 160 calls could yield a nice movement. You got some good delta on them, very low theta, and good open interest, so you can get out of your position fairly quickly. The spreads won't be too bad. But I do think those 160 calls for February 16th will be good. I think they'd be a nice one to keep an eye on, especially if you can get in at a nice little low point. I would think, at this point on the 15-minute, we are just pushing up and up and up. If we do get a pullback, using my retracement tool, I will be looking for a pullback into that 154 spot, 154.5. I think that's a good spot to get to. If we do have a massive pullback, we could see as far back as the high 153s for that little golden zone retracement. So again, I think that the ideal spot if we do pull back is going to be on that 154.60, just around that spot. That should line up nicely with the 200 EMA there on the 15-minute. And generally, these things, when they have a move like this, they will pull back roughly about 38%. So I'd like to look at that spot right there for a first add. It's very low risk. But again, we're looking for the break of 156.40 to be exact. So basically the high of day on would have been Tuesday, right after earnings. We've already filled up this liquidity here, so it is worth mentioning that if we do top here, we could set up a big push down, which could lead us into that golden zone. But it'd be a great buyer entry. Another option I was looking at, that if you wanted to go long, and I'm talking more of like a hold for a couple of months type of thing, I would look into these 175 calls June 21st. So again, like 4 or 5 months out. I think that there's a possibility that if this thing gets going, we can actually see those contracts go in the money at 175. If we can break that high, break 160 specifically, 160 should give us the push we need, at least to push up to the 168 to 170 range. So that's what I got on Procter and Gamble, PG ticker symbol. I think everything about this is looking great. The monthly is just setting up for a big move with that volume. We're not even close to overbought right now. That's why I do believe we have room to possibly 175 way up here. So definitely want to be watching here moving into next week. Another one, ROKU. This is a bit of a toss-up because right now it's not really showing signs of strength. However, I will say that the way it finished out the week last week here, we had a push down on Wednesday, followed by a push down but rejection. Ultimately, the sellers cannot push it lower, and then a push up, a new high, but then a rejection from the seller. So we're getting a lot of consolidation here. Now, if we kind of zoom this more into the 4 hour, you can possibly see what looks like a bear flag getting ready to break down. I can definitely see it. You know, if we just put a couple lines here, again, we got like this channel almost forming like this sort of bear flag. We could see this break to the downside. If that does happen, I will be looking at right around 85.80 for that ideal spot to kind of buy. Now, what this is going to set up, and what I'm seeing here, is that inverse head and shoulder. So we got the shoulder here, we have a head, a clear head, and then once we come down here, we'll get a nice clear right shoulder, and we will have a neckline up here at about 94.75. So about 94.75, basically 95. This range, you can see it's a spot we've tapped many times. We want to see the break of that. If we do get the break there, I think we can start pushing back towards that $100 level. And ultimately, here on the daily, you can see we have this just channel. I'd like to push to the high of this channel, the 108 level. Ultimately, that's my goal here. I think that that's possible. Again, if we can break that head right there at about $95. So ROKU is a nice watch. I think moving forward long term, I would still aim, if I were you guys, to go for longer term contracts. Give yourself a little more time for something like this. ROKU doesn't get a lot of volume, so I would say again we'd probably be looking at those June contracts. Let's see here. Let's see. Let's check out these April contracts too. Actually. Dang, this one's actually a little more expensive. All right, so we're gonna go closer. Actually, we're gonna go March 8th. Let's go with the March 8th contracts. Man, these are just crazy expensive. All right, interesting. All right, well, I don't really know then. On ROKU, this is an interesting one. This one doesn't really give me any kind of vibes, I guess, on the correct contract. They're all expensive right now, so I would say your best bet for this one, it does look like on the daily we get roughly a, 88 to a high of 91, so we get about a $3 swing. I would think if you wanted to try and scalp it on a break, again, we're going to be looking for that specific break there of $95. So if we drop down, again, we're only looking for the break of 95. If we get that break of 95 when we get it, I would look 2 weeks out. So wherever the time frame is, so February 16th in this case, I would look 2 weeks out, and I would aim for that $100 strike, 105 to 100. One of those two, they look like they have good volume. If you want to go for a cheap one, 110, but I would only scalp these. Anytime you go far out the money, you want to be kind of just scalping them. You know, get your trade in, get out, because theta ultimately will start to eat these up. So once we get that $95 break, I'd be looking for a 2 week out, you know, roughly about 20, roughly about $20 to $25 out the money. And again, we're just scalping them. We'll be looking at those as a, you know, get in, get out. So there's a good idea there. Pins is another one, guys, that I was looking at here. So if we look at it on the weekly time frame, this crossover is super strong. 20 over this 200, you know, an obvious breakout happening here the last couple of weeks with consolidation, lots of consolidation up here. We are kind of at overbought territory on the larger time frame, the weekly, but just looking at the monthly here, I mean, we are just trucking along. I do see this one getting a little bit more of a pullback here soon, unless we can break above that 38.69.66 level, so basically 38.70. If we can break out above that, I think we've got some room to run. These guys do have earnings on the 8th of February, so a little bit maybe of a run-up if we can get the breakout here. Now, if this does break, we do have room, you know, from that 38.70 level up to, in my opinion, about 43.5. I think 40. Yeah, what is this actually? 40. Put one way above. Yeah, about 43. I would say about 43 and a half. That's generally where I see that we can push up to. We have a range here where we could just kind of push all the way through up to this area, so about 43 and a half all the way up to about $49. But I think the more likely scenario is we get to 43 shortly. So it had a nice little pullback there on the daily. You can see we had this push up right here, followed by retracement. That retracement went all the way into the golden zone on the daily, and then buyers did bounce it. And again, this is an interesting one because the close on Friday wasn't amazing. If we go in intraday just to see kind of what happened, we had that push up in the morning followed by the push down all day during the day. Now the market was very red on Friday, so there's a good chance that it could have just been that the market was red, and we just didn't get the move that we wanted because of it. So if the market does turn around, again, FOMC this week could be a nice catalyst for pins to get the push up that it needs. So again, on the daily time frame, it's looking pretty good. Options wise, this one's you can get a little bit more crazy with. So this is more of a short-term move, the 38.70 break. So I would say you should be able to look about 2 weeks out. So if we're looking at here at the February 16th, on the break of that level, I would say we should be looking at the $45 strike price. The $45 strike price at that point, when we move up $1 or so, will be about $50. Roughly, I would say $40 to $50. So it's a fairly inexpensive one. Theta is only about 0.03 with the delta at about 0.14 to 0.15. It's a little lower than I usually like, but I think if this gets going, that will become in the money, possibly if it gets enough of a push. At least move these about 4 to 5 spots, which should yield about 100% to 125% gain. So that's what I'm looking at there on pins. Again, weekly wise, I think this is starting to look pretty strong, like some continuation possibly. Monthly looks like it's ready to push a little bit higher. So I think that we might have a little end of January into February move. So definitely pins is on my watch list here. But I think that'll be it for the day, guys. I just wanted to, again, give you guys a couple of stocks to look for here this week, the week of the 29th. So if you guys did like the video, please leave a like, comment down below what you think, anything you're confused about. Obviously, if you guys want to join a great community, Alpha Stocks Lab, link is in the description for you guys to come and join a very helpful community. We're all there for each other, and ultimately just trying to become profitable traders together, and help those who just need guidance. So yeah, and obviously if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. Otherwise, guys, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.